Dr. Eleanor Vance, a name once synonymous with brilliance at the prestigious Mayo Clinic, found herself adrift. In her early 30s, she had dedicated her life to healing, her hands moving with a practiced grace that belied her years, and her mind a repository of medical knowledge. But a shadow had fallen across her path. A colleague, consumed by envy, had orchestrated her downfall, weaving a web of lies that forced Eleanor to resign. The sting of betrayal was a constant ache, a phantom limb of her lost career. To simply survive, Eleanor traded her scrubs for a cleaner's uniform, returning to the very halls where she had once commanded respect. The irony was a bitter pill, yet she swallowed it daily, pushing a mop bucket through corridors she once strode with confidence. However, her eyes still held the keen observation of a diagnostician, subtly scanning, assessing, even as she wiped down handrails. She noticed the slightest changes in procedures, hurried conversations about complex cases, and even the worried glances of patients' families. Within the guise of a cleaner, Eleanor's medical mind never stopped working. One crisp afternoon, as the scent of antiseptic mingled with the hushed whispers of hurried footsteps, Eleanor was cleaning a quiet stretch of hallway. Her rhythm, a monotonous swish and squeak, was suddenly broken. Around the corner, a pregnant woman, elegant and visibly distressed, walked with a man whose face was etched with concern. Eleanor recognized them instantly. Sarah, wife of tech mogul Ethan Harrison, a name synonymous with innovation and immense wealth. Suddenly, Sarah gasped, her hands flying to her swollen belly, and she collapsed onto the polished floor. The moment was like an electric shock that rippled through the usually quiet hospital corridor. Everything seemed to slow, then accelerate abruptly, pulling with it a whirlwind of intense emotions from those who witnessed it. For the doctors and nurses present, Sarah's collapse was a profound shock. Initially, there was stunned disbelief. She fell, a nurse exclaimed, her voice catching. For a few brief seconds, they froze, trying to process what had just happened. Immediately after, professionalism kicked in, mixed with immense pressure. Quick, gurney, crash cart. Footsteps pounded, instruments clattered, urgent calls rang out. Each member of the team sprang into action at maximum speed, but beneath their efficiency was an overwhelming sense of tension. This wasn't just any patient. This was Ethan Harrison's wife, a figure of significant influence. The pressure to do everything right, to save both mother and child, weighed heavily on each person. As they struggled to diagnose and manage the situation, a faint, creeping fear began to surface. Standard methods seemed ineffective. The chief physician's brow furrowed deeper, their eyes reflecting helplessness as Sarah's vital signs continued to plummet. Frustration started to set in, the bitter feeling that their knowledge and skills seemed insufficient in this urgent moment. They felt a sense of blame, though not their fault, for not being able to turn the tide immediately. For Ethan Harrison, that moment was the shattering of his entire world. He was a man of power, controlling billions of dollars and thousands of employees, but now he was utterly powerless. Initially, there was pure, primal panic. He saw his wife, whom he loved, and their unborn child, fading before his eyes. The sound of Sarah caught in his throat, an unspoken cry of anguish. As the medical team swarmed around Sarah, Ethan felt pushed out, isolated in his own fear. He wanted to touch her, to do something, but he could only stand there, watching unfamiliar hands touch his wife. Each mention of vitals dropping or "we're losing the baby" was a dagger to his heart, tearing away his hope piece by piece. Despair enveloped him. His eyes pleaded with the medical team, begging for a solution, a sign of hope. He would have given everything he possessed, all his wealth, just to see Sarah and their child safe. The fear of loss was an unbearable weight, suffocating him, transforming him from a tech mogul into a vulnerable man whose profound agony was impossible to hide. Tears began to stream down his face, not from weakness, but from sheer, overwhelming helplessness. Eleanor Vance, in her cleaning uniform, also experienced shock initially as she witnessed Sarah's collapse. But very quickly, her medical instincts, long suppressed, surged powerfully to the forefront. First came the sharp, clinical observation of a doctor. Even from a distance, her eyes quickly scanned the situation. Sarah's complexion, how she fell, the team's panic, and most importantly, the look of hopelessness on the doctors' faces as they struggled. Eleanor didn't just see an emergency. She saw a medical puzzle that the current team couldn't solve. Then came intense internal conflict. On one hand, there was Eleanor, the outcast cleaner, who should remain silent, step back. She had been betrayed, stripped of her right to practice. Her intervention could be seen as overstepping, a reckless act that could cause greater trouble. On the other hand, there was Dr. Eleanor, who had sworn to heal. Her professional conscience screamed. She recognized a sign, a possibility that others might be missing. The urge to save a life was an instinct deeply ingrained in her, stronger than any fear of personal repercussions. She saw Ethan's despair, Sarah's fragility, and she knew she might have the solution. As the doctors gave up, an iron determination suddenly flared within Eleanor. There was no longer doubt or fear, only absolute focus on saving a life. She suppressed all personal emotions, the pain, the humiliation, the anger about her past, leaving only astonishing calm and pure medical knowledge. Her stepping forward, saying, "I can help her," was not the act of someone seeking attention, but the decisive declaration of an expert who uniquely saw a path to life in a seemingly hopeless situation. Dropping the mop, Eleanor pushed through the frantic crowd. "Move aside," she commanded, her voice, though soft, carrying an undeniable authority. Heads turned, eyes widened. Who was this cleaner? Barking orders? "I can help her," Eleanor stated, her gaze meeting Ethan's desperate eyes. He saw not a cleaner, but a flicker of unwavering certainty, a desperate hope. "Trust me." With Ethan's hesitant nod, Eleanor began. Her fingers, once accustomed to surgical instruments, now moved with a different kind of precision, pressing and needling specific points on Sarah's body. A gasp rippled through the onlookers. Slowly, miraculously, Sarah's ragged breathing steadied. Color returned to her lips. The monitors, which had screamed alarm, began to hum a reassuring rhythm. A collective sigh of relief washed over the corridor. Sarah and her baby were safe. Ethan Harrison, a man who commanded empires, knelt before the woman who had just saved his family. "How can I ever thank you?" He choked, tears streaming down his face. Eleanor, her face serene, simply smiled. "I was just doing my job." News of Sarah Harrison's miraculous recovery and the unconventional intervention by a mysterious cleaner spread like wildfire through the Mayo Clinic. Ethan Harrison, a man of immense influence, insisted on knowing the full story of the woman who had saved his wife and unborn child. His gratitude was profound, his curiosity insatiable. He found Eleanor, not in a grand office, but back in her cleaning uniform, quietly tending to the hospital's immaculate floors. There, in a hushed conversation that unfolded amidst the antiseptic scent of the clinic, Eleanor finally recounted her truth. She spoke of her dedication, her love for medicine, and the cruel betrayal that had stripped her of her career. She revealed the name of her former colleague, Dr. Alastair Finch, a man whose ambition had long outweighed his ethics. Ethan listened, his expression shifting from astonishment to simmering anger. He was a man who valued integrity above all else, and the injustice done to Eleanor burned him. Leveraging his considerable resources and influence, he initiated a quiet but thorough investigation into Alastair Finch. The evidence, once unearthed, was damning. Years of fraudulent research, fabricated patient records, and unethical practices came to light, all designed to bolster Finch's career at the expense of others, including Eleanor. The revelation sent shockwaves through the medical community. Dr. Alastair Finch was swiftly exposed and faced the full weight of the law and professional repercussions. The Mayo Clinic, shaken but resolute, issued a public apology to Eleanor, recognizing the profound error in judgment and the injustice she had suffered. Eleanor Vance, the quiet cleaner who had saved a life, was now Dr. Eleanor Vance once more. The Mayo Clinic, eager to rectify their mistake, offered her not just her old position back, but a newly created role, one that allowed her to explore and integrate innovative and holistic healing methods alongside conventional medicine. Her unique expertise in acupuncture, once dismissed, was now celebrated. Eleanor's story became a beacon of hope within the hospital. She returned to her passion with a renewed sense of purpose, her experience as a cleaner giving her a deeper empathy for patients and an appreciation for the unseen work that kept the hospital running. She often shared her journey, not with bitterness, but with a quiet strength, reminding her colleagues that true healing extended beyond medical charts and prestige. Months later, Eleanor stood in a new wing of the Mayo Clinic, a wing dedicated to integrated medicine, her own vision brought to life. She was no longer just a brilliant doctor. She was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of truth, and a gentle reminder that compassion and innovation often walk hand in hand. Sarah Harrison, now a doting mother to a healthy baby girl, often visited Eleanor, their bond forged in the crucible of a near tragedy. Ethan Harrison became a quiet benefactor, supporting Eleanor's new initiatives, believing fiercely in her vision of a more holistic approach to healthcare. Eleanor's journey taught her that even in the darkest valleys, the seeds of a new beginning can be sown. Her fall from grace wasn't the end. It was a painful, yet necessary, detour that led her to a more profound understanding of herself, her purpose, and the true meaning of healing. Her message, subtly woven into every life she touched, was simple yet profound. Trust your instincts. Stand firm in your truth. And remember, the greatest healing often comes from the most unexpected places.